I used to think being the reliable one was a badge of honor, that if I just gave enough, they'd see me. But sometimes, the hardest truth is realizing they only call when they need something. This is the year I stopped picking up the phone. Welcome to Echoes of the Past, where stories linger long after the last word. My name is Jenna Carter. I'm 35 years old, and I run a car repair shop in the heart of Chicago. Not a dealership, not a franchise, just a good old-fashioned auto garage I built from scratch with my own hands. I've been elbow deep in engine grease more times than I can count, and I don't wear heels or carry a briefcase. But I do wear pride, every single day. People see my shop and think, tough girl with a wrench. But they don't see the 10 years I spent turning oil changes into mortgage payments, or the nights I slept on the office couch during Chicago snowstorms just to open on time. They don't see the sacrifices, especially not my family. It started a week before Thanksgiving. My brother Tyler, Harvard law grad, now working for a boutique firm in D.C., got engaged. I found out the way distant acquaintances usually do, through Instagram. There he was, down on one knee in a rooftop garden with a skyline view behind him, and her, Victoria Hastings, flawless, photogenic, holding out her hand like she was modeling for Tiffany's. The caption read, "She said yes, can't wait to celebrate with our closest loved ones next week." It started a week before Thanksgiving. My brother Tyler, Harvard law grad, now working for a boutique firm in D.C., got engaged. I found out the way distant acquaintances usually do, through Instagram. There he was, down on one knee in a rooftop garden with a skyline view behind him, and her, Victoria Hastings, flawless, photogenic, holding out her hand like she was modeling for Tiffany's. The caption read, "She said yes, can't wait to celebrate with our closest loved ones next week." Next week. There was no invitation in my inbox, no call, no, "Hey Jen, we're getting engaged, hope you can make it." I stared at the photo for a long time. Maybe it was a mistake, I thought. Maybe they sent something and it got lost. So I called my mom. She answered on the second ring, breathless like she'd been expecting me. "Oh, Jenna, I was going to call you." My stomach dropped. "You saw the post too?" "I did," she said slowly. Then a pause. "Honey, I need you to understand something." Here it came. Victoria's family is traditional. They're hosting a formal dinner at her parents' estate. It's a very upscale crowd. Tyler said it might be best if maybe you just sit this one out. I didn't say a word, not at first. I was frozen, standing in the middle of my shop with brake fluid still on my gloves. "So I'm not welcome," I finally said. "That's not what we're saying," Mom replied quickly. "It's just, Victoria wants to make a certain impression, and, well, you know how some people can be judgmental about careers like yours." I almost laughed. But there was nothing funny about being disinvited from your own brother's engagement dinner because you run a garage. The woman who raised him, who paid his LSAT prep courses, who sent rent money when he interned unpaid. Suddenly, I was too greasy to stand in the photo. I ended the call before she could twist the knife deeper. That night, I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling. My shop's neon sign buzzed outside, casting a dull red glow across the floor. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like fixing anything. Not a car, not a relationship, not even myself. The next morning, I opened a file on my laptop labeled Tyler, Tuition and Support. It wasn't for accounting or tax purposes. I kept it because sometimes I needed to remind myself that it happened, that I wasn't imagining how much I gave. $4,000 for his first apartment in D.C., $3,200 for his LSAT prep course, $1,500 to fix his car when it died during finals, plus 4 years of rent, groceries, and last-minute emergencies. I'd wired him money so often that Chase Bank once flagged me for irregular transfer behavior. And I never asked for anything in return, not a thank you card, not a mention in a graduation speech. All I wanted was to be treated like someone who mattered. Apparently, that was too much. Later that day, my cousin Rosie called. She doesn't usually get involved in family drama, which is why I picked up. "You okay?" she asked. "No small talk?" "Define okay," I said. "I heard from Aunt Lisa. Victoria told her that you don't fit the image they're trying to project." "Image?" I repeated, stunned. "Yeah. She said they're pitching Tyler as this refined, up-and-coming legal powerhouse, and your presence would be confusing." I sat in silence. "Confusing how?" I asked, even though I already knew. Rosie sighed. "Because you work with your hands. Because you didn't go to college. Because you're not whatever version of polished they think counts." I clenched my jaw. "So I'm just the mechanic sibling they want to airbrush out of the story." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." That night I scrolled through my camera roll and found a picture from 10 years ago. Me and Tyler, sitting on the back of my old pickup. He'd just been accepted to Harvard Law, and I bought him a new backpack, the fancy kind with leather straps. He smiled like the world was his, and I smiled like I'd helped him build it. That girl, covered in dirt, exhausted, hopeful. She thought love was enough. She thought family meant loyalty. Turns out, it meant utility. So I opened my bank app, found the recurring payment I still had set up for Tyler's student loan consolidation, and deleted it. A warning popped up. "Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer?" Damn right, I was sure. For the first time in years, I chose me. The next day, the silence was deafening. No calls, no texts, not from Tyler, not from Mom. It was like I'd vanished the moment I stopped paying. And strangely, that silence felt like peace. It took 48 hours for the backlash to start. I was in the middle of replacing a radiator when my phone buzzed. 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Tyler, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I wiped my hands, checked the voicemail. Tyler's voice came through tight and fast, like someone trying to stay polite while barely holding back fury. "Jenna, what the hell? I just got off the phone with the loan service. They said your payment info's gone. What are you doing? Call me back." Then came the text. "You can't just pull support without warning. You promised. This affects my credit, Jenna." There it was. Not, "How are you?" Not, "I'm sorry you feel excluded." Just money. Always money. Then Mom chimed in. "Jenna, this isn't like you. Tyler needs you. He's under so much pressure. You know Victoria's family has high standards." I stared at that line for a long time. High standards. Apparently, character and loyalty didn't qualify. Later that day, as I was balancing invoices in my office, the shop bell rang. Rosie walked in, holding 2 coffees and that look on her face. The one she saves for moments that start with, "You're not gonna like this, but..." "I just talked to Tyler," she said, handing me a cup. "Oh yeah?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "He's panicking. Victoria's parents found out you funded most of his law school. Apparently, he told them your parents paid for everything." I nearly laughed. Of course he did. They feel lied to. Her dad's especially pissed. He thought Tyler came from some polished legacy background. "So the lie cracked, and now I'm the problem," I said, sipping my coffee. How poetic. "Tyler's afraid Victoria might call off the engagement," Rosie said carefully. "She should," I replied. "Not because of me, but because she deserves to know exactly who she's marrying." That night, as I walked home under the dim orange glow of streetlights, I thought about how many years I spent making myself small so others could feel big. How many times I bit my tongue when people made snide comments about blue-collar life. How many dinners I cooked, bills I paid, wounds I patched, all in the name of family. But what do you call people who only love you when you're useful? You call them strangers with your last name. I passed by a florist shop, paused, and bought myself a single sunflower. Not for any occasion, just because it felt good to be my own source of care, for once. Back home, I placed it in a chipped glass next to the kitchen window, where the morning sun would hit it. A small act of rebellion, a small act of self-love. And when my phone rang again, I didn't pick up. Monday morning hit like a freight train. I was midway through a staff meeting, talking through the HVAC setup for a new hybrid auto shop project, when the front door to my office slammed open with a bang that made everyone jump. And there she was, Victoria Hastings, in a cream coat, heels clicking across the tile, eyes blazing. I hadn't seen her in person in years. She'd always sent flowers or polite thank you notes through Tyler, never face to face, until now. "I need to speak with Jenna," she said, her voice sharp but barely steady. My employees glanced at each other in awkward silence. I stood up, calm but unflinching. "This is a place of business, Victoria, not your stage." "You've humiliated us," she said through clenched teeth. "Do you understand what you've done?" "I stopped funding a lie," I replied. "If that's humiliation, maybe you need to ask yourself who built the illusion in the first place." She blinked, stunned by how unshaken I was. "You're bitter. You just want to ruin Tyler's life." "No," I said evenly. "I just want to stop erasing mine." She left without another word, her heels echoing like thunder through the hallway. My team didn't ask questions. They'd seen enough family drama in their own lives to recognize the signs. One of them, Luis, handed me a warm cup of tea after she left. "You good?" he asked simply. "Yeah," I said. "Finally." That evening, Mom called again. I let it go to voicemail. "Jenna, honey, she's devastated. Tyler's not speaking to anyone. Victoria canceled the engagement dinner. She says your stunt cost him his future." I listened expressionless. Then came the text. "You used to be the one person we could count on. What happened to you?" I almost typed a response. Almost. But instead, I opened my drawer, pulled out the contract I'd just signed, a 5-year service agreement with a luxury car dealership chain. 6 figures. I had worked for every cent, and no one could take that from me. The next morning, a letter arrived. Not a text, not an email. A real, handwritten letter. From Aunt Sharon, the black sheep of the family, who'd moved to Montana years ago and never looked back. "Jenna, I heard what happened. I just want to say, I'm proud of you. Sometimes the hardest thing is realizing when being there for others has turned into being used. Don't let their silence confuse you. It's just the sound of people adjusting to your boundaries. Keep going." I sat at my desk holding that letter for a long time. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. Maybe the world didn't collapse when I stopped picking up the phone. Maybe it was just beginning. The days that followed were strangely quiet. No more late-night calls, no pleading voicemails, no, "Jenna, please, we need you." It was like I'd been collectively excommunicated, not with a bang, but with a hush. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't a lifeline. It was just a device. The silence should have hurt. A year ago, it would have shattered me. But now, it felt like peace. One afternoon, as I was reviewing inventory orders for winter tires, Rosie dropped by again. She looked a little tense, like she was holding something heavy inside. "Heard from Tyler?" she asked casually. "Nope," I said, "and I'm not planning to." She sat down slowly, fingers wrapped around her coffee cup. "He moved back to Chicago last weekend." That got my attention. "What?" "Yup, left DC completely. Victoria broke things off, her family cut ties. He's renting a studio on the south side now, trying to get his bearings. I leaned back, processing it. So now that the mask is off, the whole fairy tale crumbled? Rosie nodded. Pretty much. He told Mom that Victoria said she couldn't be with someone who lied about where he came from, that it felt like betrayal. I wasn't surprised. But I wasn't happy either. It was just hollow. Later that night, I got an email. It was from Tyler. Jenna, I don't expect you to reply. I just wanted to say that I know I messed up. I lied about you. I let my pride take over, and I'm sorry. I don't blame you for cutting me off. You were the one person who never gave up on me, and I paid you back by pretending you didn't exist. If I could go back and change things, I would. But I can't. I just hope someday you can forgive me. Ty. I stared at the screen for a long time. The apology I thought I wanted. The acknowledgement. The regret. But it didn't land the way I thought it would. Because somewhere along the way, I'd stopped needing it. I didn't reply. Not because I was cruel, but because sometimes silence is the clearest message of all. That weekend, I went to the lake. Just me, a book, and a foldable chair. I sat with my feet in the water and let the wind carry away the weight I'd held for too long. When I got home, I opened a new bank account and labeled it Jenna's Future Fund. And for the first time in over a decade, every dollar in it was mine. No guilt, no debt, no obligation, just freedom. By Christmas, I thought I'd feel something. Loneliness, maybe. Regret. That aching hollow where family's supposed to be. But when the snow started falling on the shop's windows and the city streets grew quiet, all I felt was stillness, not emptiness, just stillness. I spent Christmas Eve in my apartment, wrapped in a soft flannel robe, sipping mulled wine and watching planes, trains, and automobiles for the 10th time. I lit a candle that smelled like cedar wood and old books. The kind of peace I never had when I was the family lifeline. I used to think giving meant love, that the more I gave, the more I'd be seen. Now I knew better. 3 days after the holiday, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my old high school shop teacher, Mr. Daniels. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. He heard about the expansion of my garage and wanted to say congratulations. Inside the envelope was a photo. Me at 16, standing next to the first engine I ever rebuilt, holding a socket wrench like it was a sword. You always had the guts. Now you've got the grit to match. I smiled, surprised by how something so small could hit so deep. The following week, I signed a lease on a second garage, hired 2 new techs, invested in top-tier diagnostic equipment. Every step forward felt like reclaiming parts of myself I didn't know I'd surrendered. People asked if I ever reconciled with Tyler, or if Mom ever apologized. They didn't. Tyler moved on to a smaller firm downtown. Mom still left voicemails every other Sunday, some laced with guilt, others with nostalgia. I didn't block her, but I didn't answer either, because I finally understood something no one ever told me growing up. You don't owe people your peace just because you share a last name. And sometimes, the most radical form of love is the kind you show yourself. On a foggy January morning, I walked into my shop, flipped the open sign, and turned on the radio. One of the younger techs had brought donuts. The heater rumbled to life. The smell of coffee and grease filled the air. This was my life, not shiny, not delicate, but real, earned, mine. And when the phone rang, I let it go to voicemail. If this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. I've got more echoes to share, and maybe one of them sounds like yours.